Hare Krishna at 8 o'clock. So we're waiting for Maharaj. So I will request Sri Radha Vallabh Prabhu to start the Kirtan meanwhile. Radha Vallabh Prabhu, can you please take over?
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Vimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pachatya Desatarini.
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya.
Hey Krishna, everyone. Miraj has joined us. Miraj is here now.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much for being with us this evening. We will have a nice journey with Maharaj. I don't want to steal the thunder. Let Maharaj tell us where he's going to take us today. Thank you, Maharaj, again.
All right. So I will begin by singing the Mangalacharna prayers and leading a short kirtan. And then I will read and speak from my forthcoming book called Dancing White Elephants, traveling with Srila Prabhupada in India from, I think October, anyway, from late 70 to early 72. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupa Sagrata Sahana Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Cha Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deshatane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajapacharya Stotra Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajapacharya Stotra Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So now I will read from my forthcoming book, Traveling with Srila Prabhupada in India. I mean, the proper name is Dancing White Elephants, Traveling with Srila Prabhupada in India from I think October of 1970 to February of 1972. And I have decided to read from the section about Madras, chapter 12, Madras, November 27th, 1971 to February 24th, 1972. In November, just after the Delhi Pandal program, and on the eve of Srila Prabhupada's first tour of Vrindavan with his disciples, Achyutananda, Bhavananda, and I volunteered to go to Madras to arrange a preaching program for Prabhupada there. Nanda informed Prabhupada of the plan. Prabhupada asked, "Oh, you are not going to Vrindavan with us?" Being in Vrindavan with him. But Achyutananda replied, "ISKCON is Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada." And Prabhupada said, "Yes, my Guru Maharaj used to think like that. But which do you want us to do?" I asked.
Looks like Maharaj dropped off. Hope he will come back soon.
Yeah, it looks like that too. I think Raj's audio froze and then kicked him out. Hopefully we can get it back. Hopefully.
Doesn't seem like he's at in Carpentry or somewhere else. Never had the problem there. Let's wait.
Sridhar uncle, do you want to just continue Kirtan until we can get Raj back?
We'll give him 1 more minute. Maharaj should be coming back.
Okay, perfect. Daddy, will you check to see maybe Maharaj just posted something quick on his Facebook about it? Because devotees are dropping off. So I don't know if Maharaj has said anything about technical difficulties where he is.
Nothing here.
Okay. We'll give him a few more minutes. Hopefully Maharaj can rejoin us.
You have Maharaj phone number?
I don't, Daddy.
I have somewhere.
I have his email. That's all I have.
With Maharaj.
But
That's
maybe no. Maharaj is back, Daddy. Maharaj is back.
okay.
Perfect. Yeah. Let me spotlight Maharaj.
Devotees, the introduction back now and to read us.
Maharaj, we're still having a little difficulty hearing you.
Um, is this any better?
Slightly, Maharaj, but the audio is breaking up. Oh, so you. I think we lost Maharaj again. Yes, Samvika Prabhu?
I think everybody else is mute.
It's okay.
Yeah, if everyone else is mute the video, that maybe get the better.
Okay.
For Maharaj.
Okay. Hopefully Maharaj. There's Maharaj. Okay.
All right, I will continue your patience. So, I met many so-called intellectuals in Madras who tended toward impersonalism. They thought, oh, how silly. You are saying that Krishna is supreme, and someone else is saying that Shiva is supreme. There were many Shaivites in Madras who believed that Shiva was supreme. These impersonalists consider themselves to be more intelligent than the naive sentimentalists who worship particular deities. And they considered us to be naive sentimentalists because we worshiped Krishna, chanted Krishna's name, and preached Krishna's supremacy. As one of the first ISKCON devotees to visit Madras, I was quite a sensation, an American Vaishnav. Most people there had never seen a Western sadhu, and several, wanting to help, suggested that I meet a Mr. Ramakrishna, who they said was pious and religious and would be happy to hear of our activities. So I met Mr. Ramakrishna, and he turned out to be one of those people who thought that Shiva was supreme. And before long, we came to verbal blows. He had a volatile nature and turned red in the face and raised his voice in anger. So the meeting ended quite abruptly. Still, as I continued preaching, people kept telling me, you have to meet Mr. Ramakrishna. He's a very pious man. He is a very religious man. And I imagine that people were telling him, oh, You should meet this Hare Krishna devotee. He is very nice. They're doing excellent work. After a few weeks, I thought maybe I should give it another try. And this time I'll be more careful. When I phoned Mr. Ramakrishna, he immediately agreed to meet me, confirming the thought that people were speaking favorably about us to him. It was probably embarrassing for him that we had disagreed so vehemently. So we met, and this time I tried to restrain myself, and he tried to restrain himself. But eventually we came to the same point of contention. Who was supreme, Krishna, Vishnu, or Shiva? Again, the argument escalated, but neither of us wanted it to end the same way as it had the last time. Then I got an inspiration. In 2 weeks, my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, is coming to Madras, I said. So instead of us arguing, why don't I invite you to meet him and you can discuss with him directly? Mr. Ramakrishna liked the idea. It was a way out for both of us. And ultimately, what could be better for him than to meet a pure devotee of Krishna? When Mr. Ramakrishna eventually met Srila Prabhupada, he told him about our dispute. Quote, I met your disciple Giriraj, and I argued that Shiva is supreme, and he argued that Krishna is supreme. So who is supreme? Prabhupada took a different approach. He didn't enter into polemics about who is supreme. Rather, he said,
We can't hear you, Guru Maharaj.
Maharaj, you are muted. We can't hear you.
Hare Krishna, my dear devotees, I'm back again. Somehow the internet connection here is unstable, but we will continue this fascinating discussion about Srila Prabhupada and Mr. Ramakrishna. So, as I mentioned, Srila Prabhupada didn't enter into polemics about who is supreme. said there are two Sanskrit puja and bhakti. One worships the deity to get some material benefit, and in bhakti, one worships only to give pleasure to the deity. Shiva engaged in puja. They worship to get some material benefit. Whereas in bhakti, we worship Krishna for the sake of Krishna's pleasure, just to please him. Mr. Ramakrishna asked, is it not possible to worship Shiva in the mood of bhakti? Prabhupada replied, it is possible, but it would be exceptional. For example, generally people go to a liquor shop to buy liquor. Now one could go for another purpose, but that would be an exception. Generally, people go to buy liquor. Srila Prabhupada did not enter into the controversy over who was supreme. Rather, he explained the different moods in the worship of different deities, and Mr. Ramakrishna was satisfied with the answer. My stay in Madras was the first time I was really on my own in India, and I was trying to preach the same way I heard Srila Prabhupada preach, declaring that Krishna was the supreme personality of Godhead and criticizing demigod worshippers and impersonalists. There were many impersonalists in Madras and many demigod worshippers too. And gradually I began to hear from some of our friends that there was an undercurrent of protest against the way I was preaching. The Shaivites didn't like it, and the Mayavadis didn't like it either. Actually, hardly anyone liked it. I heard the criticism, and I was surprised, but I didn't really make any change. Eventually, the criticism reached such a point, however, that I began to have doubts. So many people are saying the same thing, I thought. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Even one of our best friends, at whose home I had been staying, echoed the comments. You shouldn't criticize others, he advised. Just say what you want about Krishna consciousness and don't say anything negative about others. Don't criticize. He gave the example of the Gaudiya Math. They don't criticize others. They have a nice temple. And every year they have a big celebration of Janmashtami and thousands of people come. But they don't criticize like you do. They just present their own activities. Why can't you be like them? I thought about what he said, but when I asked myself whether Srila Prabhupada would really want us to be like the Gaudiya Math, I didn't think he would. So I kept preaching as I had been. But then another friend, whose brother had offered to sponsor Srila Prabhupada's program in Madras, said the same thing. All right, you worship Krishna, you can worship Krishna, but don't say that Krishna is better than Shiva or Ganesh. You do bhakti, that's right, but don't say that bhakti yoga is better than karma yoga or jnana yoga. Wherever I went, I kept hearing it. Finally, I thought, maybe Krishna is trying to tell me something. Maybe I should just listen to what they're saying. And I made a resolution. I'm just going to present Krishna consciousness. I'm not going to criticize, and I'll try not to offend people anymore. Soon thereafter, I had an appointment with a big industrialist. Srila Prabhupada had said that if we just place his books on a person's table, the person would become a life member. So I went to the man's compound, which included his factory, office, and residence. And in his office, I showed him the books and the pictures of our activities, took out the life membership form, explained the benefits, and asked him to sign. What about Shankaracharya? He asked. He is one of the great acharyas of India. You haven't said anything about him. So I said, yes, he is one of the great acharyas of India, but you haven't said anything about him. What about him? What about his teachings? I said something vague and general, but he kept pushing, probing, and finally I couldn't help myself. It all came out. I told him that actually Shankaracharya was an incarnation of Shiva, and that as such we give him all respect. But I also told him that Shankaracharya had come with a special purpose to present an imagined monistic interpretation of the Vedas and thus bewilder ignorant people. I even took out the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. We didn't yet have the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and read the verses from the Padma Purana and Shiva Purana about Lord Shiva taking the form of a Brahmin, preaching the false doctrine of Mayavad philosophy, which was covered Buddhism, and promoting atheism. Still, Shankara's ultimate purpose was to bring the Buddhists who were atheists to accept the authority of the Vedas. It was a strategy. And then Lord Chaitanya came and taught the proper understanding of the Vedas. Things became tense. The gentleman put forth a series of arguments, and I thought, I didn't want to get into an argument, but somehow I did anyway. He'll never change his position. I might as well just leave. And that was the end of the discussion. Disappointed, I put away the pictures, put away the books, put away the membership form, closed my briefcase, and was ready to go. As I was about to leave, however, the gentleman said, before you go, I would like you to see my temple. I thought, oh no, there's going to be a Shiva Lingam, and he's going to want me to bow down. And if I don't, he's going to be even more offended. I looked at him and he looked at me, and I could see he wasn't going to take no for an answer. So I said, all right. He escorted me to his temple room, which was quite large for a personal temple and was all white marble. Facing us on an elevated platform at the opposite end was the altar. And much to my surprise, on the altar were large marble deities of Radha and Krishna. Boy, was I ever happy to see them. I hadn't seen any Radha Krishna deities for some time, since even the Vaishnav temples in Madras were mostly Vishnu, and then the famous temple of Parthasarathi, which was just Krishna alone. So I was delighted. I offered my obeisances and prayers, and then I looked at the gentleman with an expression that asked what was going on. He looked me straight in the eyes and said, I am a devotee of Krishna, and all my family members are devotees of Krishna. My family has worshipped Lord Krishna for many generations. I was just testing you, and you did not compromise. So I am very pleased, and I will be honored to become your life member. We went back to his office. I took out the forms. He took out his checkbook, and he paid the whole amount in one installment. Later, when I thought about the encounter, I was confused. I wondered if maybe I hadn't been doing the wrong thing after all, but I still wasn't sure. When I got back to my room, there was a letter waiting for me from Srila Prabhupada. Receiving a letter from Prabhupada was always a great occasion. When I opened it, the words jumped off the page. The fact is that I am the only one in India who is openly criticizing not only impersonalism and demigod worship, but everything that falls short of complete surrender to Krishna. Prabhupada's words continued, quote, my Guru Maharaj never compromised in his preaching, nor will I, nor should any of my students. We are firmly convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that all others are his part and parcel servants. This we must declare boldly to the whole world, that they should not foolishly dream of world peace unless they are prepared to surrender fully to Krishna as Supreme Lord. So I got my answer. That was Prabhupada's mood, his Guru Maharaj's mood and his mood. And that was the mood he wanted us to have. We don't compromise in our philosophy. In the same letter, Srila Prabhupada wrote, I have read the text of your speech delivered to the Rotary Club, and it is very thoughtfully prepared. Try to arrange many speaking engagements like that, and simply repeat what you have heard me say in lectures and in our books, and the spiritual effect will be very potent. I'm very pleased with your preaching attitude. It may be that the governor of Madras will invite me as his guest. If this happens, I will come to Madras. For the time being, you may remain in Madras making members, and by my next letter, I shall let you know definitely whether I am coming. If I come, you can arrange lectures in all the prominent halls and all over the city. You can advertise A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami speaks. So as it is, Srila Prabhupada did come. And anyway, while in Madras, on January 25th, Srila Prabhupada replied, I am in due receipt of your letter of January 11th, 1972, and with great pleasure, I have noted the contents. I am especially glad that you are planning a nice 3-day program in Madras, and for that purpose, I plan to return by first week, February, from Africa. You may please approach the governor as chief guest. There's also one big man in Bombay, Mr. A.B. Nair, who is a close friend of the governor of Madras and who is trying for us to stay at the governor's mansion. I shall inform you more of this matter later. Very nicely for life membership and sales. I think that you're of all my students in India. So I am very, very much appreciating your sincere efforts. The simple formula for success in Krishna consciousness is this sincerity. If Krishna sees that his devotee is sincere, then Krishna gives all program very nice and advertise it nicely. And I shall really enjoy to come there and see what you have done. One day, there's so much here. Well, I sort of started this, I'll finish it. It's very instructive. One day, Achyutananda had an argument with our host, a so-called Orthodox Hindu, who believed that you couldn't be a Brahmin unless you were born in a Brahmin family. Still, the man conceded, you can be a Vaishnav, and a Vaishnav is more than a Brahmin, but you are not a Brahmin. To become a Brahmin, you have to take birth as a Brahmin in your next life. Achyutananda explained, one takes birth in a particular family according to his karma, his previous pious and sinful activities. And thus someone who has engaged in sinful activities may not take birth in a Brahmin family. But by chanting the holy name of the Lord, you can immediately eradicate all sinful reactions without a change of body. In conclusion, he asked our host, what is stronger, the holy name or sin? And the man had to admit that the holy name was stronger. By taking shelter of the holy name, under the guidance of a pure devotee, one could be freed from sinful actions and reactions without changing one's body, and thus transcend the position of even an ordinary Brahmin. One could become more than a Brahmin and also a Brahmin. While in Madras, Achyutananda, Bhavananda, and I got to speaking about how things were going in India and how they could be better organized. And somehow, although I did not have as much regular interaction with Srila Prabhupada as the others, they wanted me to write him the letter. And so I did. Quote, Achyutananda, Bhavananda, and myself have met and collectively decided on a plan based on our limited and imperfect senses. And we humbly put forth these ideas for your divine grace. Although some of our ideas may have been impractical or inappropriate, Srila Prabhupada praised our effort. I am very much encouraged by your thoughtful plan to organize very nicely all our men in India, he replied from Bombay. I can understand that you are very eligible to become amongst the biggest leaders. So I have all confidence in your Madras programs. There appears to be some feeling of dissatisfaction with the way the things are being managed in India. So I have simply said that if you get me at least 2 life members daily in India, then I shall do the rest. So I am pleased to hear from you that you are making many life members there. That is the proof of our preaching strength. Wherever there is preaching strength, there is also success. No matter it may be Pandal show or making members or traveling Sankirtan party or whatever it may be. Just maintain our strong position of purity.
Maharaj, we can't hear you. You are muted, Maharaj. Will you please unmute yourself so we can hear you?
I did.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll get back to this very interesting reading. So we went out on a Odyssey by rain. So a light drizzle. A minute, the sky opened up and rain poured down, and it kept getting heavier. And there wasn't much of a drainage system, just an open ditch 2 or 3 feet deep, lined with concrete. So as the storm continued, the channel started filling with water. Pretty soon, we couldn't distinguish between the water on the street, the water in the ditch, and the water in the fields beyond. Through it all, Bhavananda and I walked along blissfully, drenched in water, but inspired in our service to our Guru Maharaj. Then Bhavananda fell into the ditch, up to his waist in sewage water, until I gave him a hand and he climbed out, dripping. When I related the incident to Srila Prabhupada, I praised Bhavananda that he had equal vision and didn't distinguish between high and low. I quoted Bhagavad Gita 5:18. Vidya Vinay Sampane Brahmane Gavihastini Suni Chaiva Sabake Cha Pandita Samadarshinaha. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, outcast. Yes, Prabhupada replied, you have theoretical knowledge, but Bhavananda has realized knowledge, practical realization, so he is more advanced. Then the Hindu newspaper announced Srila Prabhupada's forthcoming visit to Madras, and it carried an account of Srila Prabhupada's arrival. And I'll read from some of that account. The Hindu reported on Prabhupada's arrival, Madras, February 11th. The father of the Hare Krishna movement, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, arrived here from Bombay on his first visit to the city. He was accorded a reverential welcome by a gathering of his followers and admirers. He will give discourses at the Rajeshwari Kalyana Mandapam, Malapur, from February 12th to 14th. To mark the Swamiji's arrival, a group of his disciples, mostly hailing from the West, but donning saffron robes in the traditional Hindu style, conducted what they call Nagar Sankirtan, group singing of hymns in streets and other public places, which is the most important aspect. To make a modest-sized profession of devotees, a rare sight on the arterial highway, and in refreshing contrast to the marches and demonstrations one commonly witnesses. The following day, I arranged a meeting between Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chakravarti Rajagopalachari, Rajaji, the first chief executive of independent India and the author of a well-known English translation of Mahabharata and other books of Indian philosophy. Rajaji was now 93 and had been the last Governor General of India and the first Indian-born Governor General, as all previous holders of the post had been British. He had also served as the leader of the Indian National Congress, premier of the Madras Presidency, governor of West Bengal, Minister for Home Affairs of the Indian Union and Chief Minister of Madras State. He was one of India's elder statesmen, deeply religious, and a founding father of the. And when Vice President Richard Nixon from America visited him in 1954, Nixon called him the wisest man in India. So there's a very nice discussion between Rajaji and Srila Prabhupada. It went on for quite a while. And in the end, Rajaji raised quite an important question. So he said, Rajaji, the Gita Acharya will confirm, I have no doubt. But the question which I put to Giriraj was whether it would not have been better if you work from inside rather than make yourself a separate cult and organization. Separate organization, once you form it, becomes like a person who is born. He gets his attachment, his ego, his everything. So the separate organization, like Mr. Bandhu, becomes an ego. He is fond of his own attachments, of his own interest, and so the organization must be looked after. The organization should succeed. The organization should succeed better than other organizations. There is competition among organizations. So all the egotistic weaknesses apply to organizations also. Therefore, I was wondering whether it would not, if you had convinced that your mission was to spread the Gita Acharya's teachings as to how to act with detachment and with faith in the grace of God, where you go wrong could not have been better done without making yourself separate. Prabhupada, no. The thing is, when there is detachment, there must be another attachment. Rajaji, yes. To God. Prabhupada, yes. That is required. Rajaji, if you wish to live with detachment, attach yourself to God. After getting good attachment, one gives up the inferior attachment. Rajaji, right. That will be better. The attachment should be to God. Prabhupada, Krishna. Rajaji, Krishna. Govinda, as I will call him. Attachment should be to Govinda, not to an organization. Prabhupada, Govinda is absolute. Govinda and Govinda's organization are the same. Govinda is absolute. Rajaji, I don't want to discuss it as I told you. I'm not competent to discuss. I'm just telling you what I think. Prabhupada, no, I'm answering this point. Just like Krishna, his name, his form, his pastimes, his entourage are all the same. Otherwise, what is the benefit of chanting Krishna's name? Suppose I am thirsty just now. If I simply chant the name of water, I'll not be satisfied. Water is required, the actual substance. But when we chant Krishna, Krishna's name is not different from Krishna. I also arranged for Srila Prabhupada to meet with Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, who had served as the second president of India from 1962 to 1967, and the first vice president of India from 1952 to 1962, and who had written several books and translations of Vedic philosophy from the impersonal point of view. Srila Prabhupada had previously criticized Dr. Radhakrishnan's translation and commentary on the Gita, which declared that although Krishna says to surrender unto him, we don't actually have to surrender to the but beginningless, eternal, who speaks through Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada very severely criticized Dr. Radhakrishnan's interpretations. But coming to their meeting, now Dr. Radhakrishnan was a decrepit old man, withered and bent over. He shuffled with the assistance of a nurse who lowered him into a chair. And Vishakadasi remembered he sat near Prabhupada wordless. For me, this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Krishna, Prabhupada went on, is a person, not a person like us, for we are embodied soul. Krishna's form is all spiritual. We could personally
Krishna Maharaj, we can't hear you.
All right, my dear devotees, we are back again. We have overcome the latest interruption to the Wi-Fi. So coming back to Madras, I think for this, I'll come to one last discussion. Srila Prabhupada met with many of Madras's most important citizens. They were leaders, he told them, and if they became Krishna conscious, others would follow their example. One such dignitary was Sri K.K. Shah, the governor, who was a staunch Mayavadi and follower of Shankaracharya. Prabhupada patiently tried to explain Krishna consciousness to him, but the governor kept interrupting with his own philosophy. And when Prabhupada asked him to somehow help the Krishna consciousness movement, Shah replied that as governor, there was nothing he could do. Everything was in the hands of the chief minister. For one program, and my dear devotees, please listen very attentively because this is very significant. For one program, the Chief Justice of Madras invited Prabhupada to speak before a large gathering of High Court judges advocates, and other leading citizens. Prabhupada appealed to the audience to follow the examples of Sri Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, who in the 16th century had given up their exalted posts as prime minister and finance minister in the Bengal government to help Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread the Krishna consciousness movement. After the program, the Chief Justice invited Prabhupada to dinner at his home, and there he joined Prabhupada's movement. Prabhupada again began to glorify the 6 Goswamis, but this time in a different way. He explained how after going to Vrindavan, the Goswamis were always longing for Lord Krishna and his eternal consort, Srimati Radharani. They never said, now I have seen God, now I have satisfied. No, rather they were saying, where is Radha? Where is Krishna? The Chief Justice presented Prabhupada a sandalwood garland and a small statue of Krishna. To demonstrate the ecstasy the Goswamis had felt in separation from Krishna, Prabhupada held the statue in front of little Saraswati and said, who is this, Saraswati? Krishna, Saraswati exclaimed. Then he slowly moved the statue around to the side and hid it behind his back and said, Saraswati, where is Krishna? Saraswati realized that a startled look of anxiety crossed her face. Her eyes darted in all directions. Where is Krishna? But Krishna was nowhere to be found. She looked to the devotees, checking their hands and around their backs, searching everywhere. But Krishna was nowhere to be found. Then one devotee said, Saraswati, who has Krishna? And Saraswati opened her eyes wide with realization and exclaimed, Prabhupada has Krishna. And she rushed to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Prabhupada has Krishna. And he brought the statue from behind his back and presented it before her. As the rest of us observed the touching exchange, we gained a clear understanding that Prabhupada held Krishna in his hand and that he could deliver Krishna to us when he felt that our desire for Krishna, like Saraswati's, was sufficiently intense. He knew our inner feelings, knew each of our hearts. Although Saraswati was only 3 years old, Prabhupada knew just how to engage her in Krishna consciousness. And we were able to witness him as the supreme preacher, engaging everything and everybody in spreading Krishna consciousness. So, dear devotees, thank you for listening so pay attentively. And have comments, any reflections you would like to share, you can raise your hand, your physical hand or your virtual hand.
Thank you, Maharaj. So there was so much interruption today. Maybe we can continue this reading next time, sometime in future. It's so interesting and so
Yeah.
such a journey. When you go back to Carpinteria, maybe we will have no problem there.
Yeah. Here the internet connection was unstable. That's a very good idea. Maybe next time we'll do Surat. That was also a very amazing visit.
Yes, Maharaj, it's so wonderful and shows Prabhupada disciples tenacity and perseverance and total faith. You all have such a faith in Prabhupada and did it. So that's why we are here.
Nice.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Any other comments or question for Maharaj?
Maharaj, I have one question. Hare Krishna Maharaj. How do you remember every single detail?
First, I want to make a request that the devotees on Zoom
Why, we can see you but can't hear you.
Okay. So someone asked how I remember so many details. Well, I have a pretty good memory, especially when it comes to Srila Prabhupada. I absorbed a lot. And I also did, you could say, research, because many of Srila Prabhupada's conversations, which I quoted, are in the Bhaktivedanta database, the folio. So, for example, his long discussion with Rajaji was there in the Bhaktivedanta database. And yeah, I guess it's Prabhupada's mercy. That's all I can say. It's Krishna's mercy, because he wants Srila Prabhupada's glories to be recorded and proclaimed. Yeah. And I pray a lot. When I write, I pray a lot for guidance.
So you must have a big team of devotees to help you with everything?
I do. There's one devotee, disciple named Rohini Nandan Das from Israel. And he puts together collections of everything that he could find about any particular incident. So I get to review those. And I have 4 editors, very expert editors, who help refine the writing. My main editor is Kalachandji Das, who is Tamal Krishna Goswami's brother.
Oh.
And then next editor is Vishaka Priya, who has been based in Vrindavan for a long time, but now is in Mayapur. And then the next editor is Madhurika. She's originally from South Africa, but now she lives in Alachua, Florida. And then Nikunja Vilasani was very good. She's originally from South Africa, but now she's staying in Portugal. So they really do an excellent job with the writing, with the editing, I should say.
Yes, Maharaj.
These books will be coming out sometime soon, Maharaj.
Yeah. Yeah, it's written, and yeah, the photos and the captions have been selected. The front cover and back cover and front left.
Mm. We lost you again, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah. Anything else from anyone? All right, if not, then I suggest we conclude with Vaishnav Pranam. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnav devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees who can fulfill the desires of everyone and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः
Nantakoti Vaishnav Vrindaki Jai.
जय
Thank you, Maharaj.
जय
Maharaj, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Thank you.